You know this song?
Now I'm trying to figure out how to. Oh, I have too many remote controls. That's just what it comes down to.
You need to go back to shop and like make a little box for all your remotes.
Yeah,
Tape them all on the side. That's what I did for my father.
yeah. And then I've already, I guess. What did I do with the? What did I do for that? Oh, I can, I don't even know if that's on the right thing now. Do we hear anything?
I hear you. I don't hear anything from here.
Okay.
We're in sync. Either we both have rhythm or we both are just sad.
Oh, what is making that noise?
It's the song.
Oh man, Conversation Civilized. That was Baba Brinkman, rapper extraordinaire. Who's heard of him? I've heard of him. He's playing it because I just got my Baba Brinkman DVD in the mail yesterday for his new Rap Guide to Wilderness. So about protecting the environment. He's an environmentalist. He's many things to many people. One of the things, he's an environmentalist. I supported him. He did a Rap Guide to Evolution, and I donated a bunch of money. Not a bunch, but enough money so that when they made the DVD to create the videos for the CD, as educational DVDs to go to schools, and schools can show the videos, my name appears in the credits of the DVD.
Really?
For making a donation, a substantial donation to get my name in the credits. So that was a good thing. So that came in the mail yesterday and last night. So this morning I sent out a tweet, hurrah, my Rap Guide to Wilderness for Baba Brinkman. Hurrah! I added to my collection of rap guides. He has a Rap Guide to Evolution, Rap Guide to Business, Rap Guide to Human Psychology. Yeah, he likes to rap about different subjects. He does also literature raps, Canterbury Tales, Beowulf, Gilgamesh, all the classics. And then he raps about the environment. He raps about politics. He's a really interesting cat. So one thing that was nice about this, I did this little tweet here, and I got a couple of retweets down here. Let's just take a look here. Who's retweeting Random Excess's tweet? Yeah, nobody apparently. Come on, loading.
It's so many that it's loading for a very long.
Yes, of course. When I did this in practice, it came up instantly. So I'll try it again here. Retweets came up way up. Look at this. Baba Brinkman retweeted it. So, of course, cool. Promoting his music. So he gives me a retweet. But also up there, you see Derek Ashong. He was another great, another musician. He used to be on what network was that? Al Jazeera. That was it. He had a little show on there. I think now he's on the Fusion network. Fuse. Although that may be changing a little bit. He's doing a lot. He does a little bit of everything. We talk on Twitter periodically about music and politics and stuff. He retweets some of my stuff. I retweet some of his stuff. And then I hooked him up with Baba Brinkman, introduced them, said, hey, you guys ought to really talk to each other. So then they follow each other, and I got a follow from each of those. We're going to close the show tonight with a song from Derek Ashong from his album Afropolitan, which is pretty kick-ass album, I think. So if you want to look up Baba Brinkman and Derek Ashong, those are my two musical recommendations from Random Excess.
Random Man is dropping the name.
That's right. So what was going on today in Twitter world? Again, we have our Facebook page, which I post on the Facebook page. It comes to Twitter. Has an interesting graph of the U.S. That's the gray area and the blue area. Each represent 50% of the population of the U.S. And this is done by counties. So the little puzzle pieces there are counties. So those are the dark blue represent the most populous counties in the U.S. obviously, but they represent 50% of the population. So if you're going to win an election, you just need to go into those couple counties. Well, that's not quite true because you have to win states, not counties. But it's interesting distribution of population. Most of the U.S. got nobody in it. They call them the flyover states there in the middle for a reason. You go from the west coast to the east coast, back and forth, and you just fly over. You go from that little strip of blue to that big clump of blue, and you fly over all those other states. There's just nothing going on there. That is not true, but it is there's something going on there. A lot of growing a lot of crops, and, things like that, and a lot of I don't know, probably the military does a lot of stuff out there in the middle of nowhere where nobody's bothered them. Tonight's episode, what are we calling this episode? How about this? Don't pray for answers, pray for questions. What does that even mean? Why would he say that?
I have no idea.
That was God speaking.
Nobody has any idea. Nobody's higher power has an idea what I'll explain what that means. It has something to do with some of the stuff I've been talking about, and kind of was starting to hit on yesterday, which was was leading off the fight for the mind of the universe and stuff like that. So I'll get to that. And there's another thing here about great quotes, and this is I want to end on the Twitter talk on this one here. But great quotes share this quality of stimulating great conversation, and the one that really did that for me was this quote here from Dr. Colonel West. This was posted by Bernie Sanders, independent senator from Vermont. He's all over Facebook. If you don't know who Bernie Sanders is, look him up. He's independent. He's not a Democrat. He's not a Republican. He caucuses with the Democrats. And most people think he's much more progressive than the Democrats. But he wonderful, smart. But he just posted this. Is not his quote. This is from Colonel West. I'll let you read the quote itself, what you think it means. But to me, it really says we need leaders to be willing to shake up a system. And part of shaking up a system for leaders sometimes is to eliminate their own jobs. I mean, it seems like a lot of leaders get in positions and then they spend a lot of their time making themselves immune to being thrown out of office or something. Rather than I think like police doing this. Like the police, they should be really if they're doing their job really well, we wouldn't need as many. But the police don't see it that way. They say, we got to do as much as we can, so we need more police. So it's like, that seemed to go against. So you guys are just to cause trouble. So we need more police, and you get job security out. Some of these jobs are just like there's a conflict of interest. I feel in the jobs. It's like your job should be to not have to do your job. Get yourself out of your job by eventually by doing a great job. Not the president necessarily, but great leaders. It shouldn't be just trying to preserve complex systems that just create job security for everybody under them. In particular, so that's what great leaders should probably be eliminating. Leaders, government leaders, not necessarily personal leaders, but government leaders. This is the anti-government comment here. Governments just they justify their own existence, and there's something annoying about that to me, because it's a man-made construct. It's a great temporary solution to some problems, but at some point in time, we've got to be willing to let government go. Maybe, I see that in the future. I see government being let go. It was a conversation I was having with somebody about this, the New World Order. And, there's different people talk about these different things, but one world government kind of thing. I kind of think it was like a bunch of, if you think of the countries as like a bunch of soap bubbles, then join together to make one giant soap bubble. So at one point, the whole world is under one country. There's one new world order. But if you've done this right, and you get to that point, then the bubble can burst. And now you have no more countries, no more borders. You just have humans being humans, acting like humans, and there is no government. And we're never going to get to that unless we have locally sustained resources. We got to have locally sustained manufacture. We got to be able to build things that we need to live locally. 3D printer technology is really kind of the way to do that, because you have these essentially they're manufacturing robots that can build anything. So you don't have to build lots of different factories to build lots of different things, and then do it in a way that's very efficient, so that you got to take advantage of economies of scale. So now we've got to make all this one part here at this one big factory, and in some other part of the country you have to build another big factory that builds some specific. And so now you've got your distributed all over the place. You like to pull your distribution together. Well, you can't bring all that distribution together because that's just too much. You can. China does that actually. There's places, cities in China where you go, and there's these huge manufacturing plants next to each other, where if you're designing something, like Apple phone, there's Foxconn is the company over in China, is the one real big one that builds a lot of electronics for all American companies. Now you buy American, a smartphone. It used to be cameras, but now smartphones is generally laptops. All those computers are all made by the exact same companies over in China or over in Asia. It's just that one day they're making them for Apple, one day they're making them for IBM, one day they just change who they're making them for, but they're the ones making them, so they're made over there. But they're also the companies who make all the support components are also right nearby, so that if you're dealing with them and you have to change your design specifications, you can do it all in one location. They can actually send a guy on foot to the building next door and to get some work done and change what schematics and what has to happen so that it doesn't interrupt your sort of manufacturing flow. Where over in the U.S., manufacturing over here with distributed distribution, if you start making design specification changes, it's a lot more chaos. But that's not sustainable either, because you're focusing all your manufacturing for everybody into one area. So 3D printer technology allows you to sort of do manufacturing on demand. We get to manufacture what we need to manufacture. I'm not suggesting that we're going to do all our manufacturing that way, but we need to do a fair amount of it. We need to do enough of it so that we feel like our manufacturing is locally sustained. And it doesn't end with manufacturing. In fact, that would be like the last thing I would worry about maybe. But things like energy, food, and water need to be locally sustained. They need to be local and sustainable. We can't. I talked about it last night. You can't have these giant grids where you're at risk. If there's interruption in the grid, it basically kills you. Water, you got to go 72 hours. We're out of water for 72 hours, you're in trouble. Food, a couple of weeks, a week or two. Other things, you're at a horrible risk. And then of course, power goes out right away. Your food starts spoiling. If you have water, if the water is pumped by electric stations, now your water flow is interrupted because the power went out. So we have to kind of plan or be aware that we're putting a lot of eggs in one basket. We're relying on these giant grids, whether or not they're distribution grids for products, for food, for energy, and we're at risk. And not just locally are you at risk, but the entire country is at risk if the grid goes down. By moving things locally, that's not a problem. So this whole need for countries now, it becomes less important. So this is the bursting of the soap bubble. It kind of almost like return back to the day of city-states. But as long as we do this with the idea that we're still going to share communication, information, ideas, we don't want to have enclaves of thought and idea that get locked and shut off from the rest of the world. Because that kills the evolution of ideas. A lot of great ideas throughout history took a long time to spread because maybe somebody kept it secret for 60 years and the next person kept it secret. And eventually with the printing press it helped and ideas were able to spread a little more freely. But as soon as ideas started to spread freely, all of a sudden lots of things start happening because you don't have to have everybody think of everything. All you have to do is think of one little thing to add to the previous thoughts. And that takes open communication. So as long as we have a distribution of communication, distributed communication, that's the only grid we need to rely on. And then when something like that goes down, it doesn't kill the whole system either. The communication grid goes down, there'll still be a lot of communication out there, and so that's not the worst thing. And even if it does go down for a little while, it's not going to hurt us. We can lose communication as long as we can locally build things and eat and purify water and get energy and all that kind of good stuff. So that's the soap bubble exploding. That was, I think of countries going away, and which maybe that's all that came from reading this quote here by Colonel West. Like you want leaders who are going to willing to stand up and do something, make the hard choices. And for me, some of those hard choices are, how can I eliminate my job? That's a hard choice for anybody, but sometimes that's the right thing. We don't, how do we eliminate prison guards? We need to ask prison guards, what can we do to get rid of your job? They're not going to answer you, but wouldn't that be nice if we had fewer prison guards? I don't think having more prison guards is a good thing. And that's a whole other conversation, which we're going to have sometime too, about the privatization of criminal justice. I don't know how that happened. It was like, whatever. So, boy, that was a little bit of a rant just coming off Colonel West here. So,
He is on a roll.
Yeah. So Shane, how was your day, and what do you got to share with us?
Well, my day was a productive one. As you know, we did a whole lot of things yesterday. Launched our official announcement in regards to my new podcast show that we're going to do on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern, called Arisen Strength. And so we were marketing that all day, on Twitter, on Facebook. We've got a couple things that came along that could be very interesting. As far as marketing wise, as far as building the brand a little bit more so, and reaching out to more people, that I feel that we're going to be able to help, and that is to be able to, bring back their talents and their dreams, from their suppressed state right now. And there's a whole lot of reasons why those dreams and talents do get suppressed, and sometimes it's that we're blindsided by life, the way that it goes. But my intention is to be able to bring them back to where they live again, and that they can share it with us all, and so that we can all enjoy what it is that they can do. So we've definitely been busy in that sense, and been working on this show here, and we're looking forward to the next week. Next week we got Tuesday. I'm speaking on at Manans Pros in regards to Northeast career planning, and you and I are going to have a conversation on Sunday. So we're definitely going to be busy in the next few weeks, and hopefully a little bit longer than that. So it just makes it more fun.
Great. That sounds, it's very exciting stuff. And, it's been kind of a very action-packed week, getting through that. And, really was trying to think of a way to tie this with the episode title. And in my head, I can do it, but it would take me the rest of the episode to do that. So, I'm gonna have to
This is your show.
Yeah, but I don't want to take the rest of the episode to get to the title without being able to go beyond the title. But pray for, and then maybe when I'm done, maybe you can figure out a way to get there on your own, homework. How to tie up what Shane said and link that to the title episode. Don't pray for answers. Don't pray for answers. Yeah, pray for questions. I talked yesterday about my higher power, and I talked about math always talking and always telling the truth. Or at least mathematical models, they're built, little objects that are built that only tell the truth. I mean, that's what their job is. And then we use this mathematical language, this complicated mathematical language, to kind of listen to it. It's like when you write down a great mathematical question, the proof of that question, a mathematical statement, it's kind of like a question, the proof of that statement. The great ones just sort of unroll by themselves. It's like the math is speaking to you, and you don't have to force the answers out of a great math question. It's like they flow. It's like a roller coaster starting, and it's just. And all the energy is put in at the beginning to make sure that you understand the definitions and that you craft the statement of the theorem, or you ask the right questions. When you ask the right question, the answer to that question, the proof of the question, just sort of comes for free. So the hard work is actually coming up with what question to ask. What can I prove? And when you do that and you hit the right ones, they prove themselves. It's like it answers itself. To me, that's the math that's always talking. It's like I don't have to work hard to come up with the proof. I have to work hard to come up with the theorem. What's the question that I'm going to ask? And when I ask the right questions, the answers just come flooding. And to me, that's the universe speaking. It's the math speaking, and that's what I mean when I say the math is always telling the truth, or that the universe is always telling the truth. What I really mean is when you ask the right question, you instinctively know the answer. But how can you instinctively know an answer to a question you've never heard of before? It's kind of this weird thing. So the answer has to come from somewhere. You say, well, it comes from deep inside of me. And so I kind of say, well, it comes from the universe somewhere, and then you feel it inside of you. It's like, ooh, and it's that aha moment. It's something of the universe speaking to me. And I have this whole theory which I could talk about, like where I imagine the creation of the universe. But I imagine this, and I'll give you just the first couple sentences of it. Just imagine just vast darkness, and there's nothing there. I mean, there's not even any space. There's not even any darkness. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. How can you create a universe from this? Well, one thing you can do is you can start asking questions, and when you ask the right questions, the universe builds itself. And the first question that I could think of to ask, and it has an immediate answer, is, where am I? And as soon as you answer that question, where am I, the answer that just comes out is, to me, is right here. And as soon as I do that, I've created space in an empty universe. Before I asked that question, there was no space in the universe. There was no here. There was nothing. There was nothingness. But by asking that question, all of a sudden you're creating space. Where am I? Here. Just that answer itself creates space because it creates a location. You can't answer here unless you have a location. So it's like speaking the words creates the location. And then the next question is, what can I do? And really there's only one answer, and that's move. So it's like, whoa, move. And then you start thinking about how the ways that you can move, and then I have this whole thing, but there's this sequence of questions. When you move, you can only do two things. You can either rotate or you can take a step. I mean, that's really it. But as you start doing these things, taking steps and rotating, you start building out and moving through the universe and start creating the universe this way. And as you start asking more questions, if you can think of the right questions to ask, they're simple questions that have sort of like obvious answers, but they're what's hard to come up with is what's the question. I mean, I think asking the question of after, where am I here? What can I do? I mean, really the only answer is move or change, I guess would be a better thing than move. Change. That's, it's a Big Bang, right? The Big Bang is everything is stillness everywhere. Then all of a sudden it changes everywhere. And that's kind of that's the Big Bang is. There's this change in the universe. Before that, there was no change. And change is time. That's how the universe marks time, as changes. Up, 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 up. It's a ticking clock. It's counting changes, counting vibrations of atoms. It's counting things like that. Ticking of whatever. The universe ticks, and it ticks every time something changes. If nothing was changing, there would be no ticking. And this is kind of also tied to my evolution statement about if you ain't evolving, you ain't merely dying, you're dead, because evolution is life. You must change to evolve, and the universe must change, or it doesn't exist anymore. It's just there has to be change. There's no time without change. So that's kind of where that's going with that.
I can I've been thinking about this question that you've been popping at me all day, and I think I got an answer from my standpoint, and that is number one, I'm a spiritual individual. I do believe that there's a higher power. My higher power is God, and I know that I deal with mental illness, but I don't even think that it even pertains to just the mental illness part. Many people end up having distorted answers to the questions that they continue to ask, and yet they see what it is that feels right to the feeling that's inside of them. So if you're mad, then you're going to be asking questions that are going to relate to you being mad. And what is it that you're going to ask in order to be able to have that answer returned to you? It's sort of like the it's sort of like the theory of attraction, law of attraction. And what I've noticed is that if I'm sitting there and I'm focused in on what it is that on my feeling, well, that led me to a lot of pain, and it led me to a lot of problems. Whereas getting out of the way and asking for what is the right questions instead of giving me the answers, when I was asking for the right questions, I had more answers than what it is that I would have ever had before. And it wasn't just one answer. You know, it led me to be very open. It led me to be open to the possibilities. And it allowed me to be able to see things differently and realize that what it is that I was thinking before in a distorted mind, in a distorted mind, whether it be mental illness or not, was not the truth. You know, and and a lot of therapy says feelings aren't facts. I think that's what they mean. You know, it's like because our feelings sit there and we react upon them on those feelings, but in fact, that's not necessarily the truth. And if we're sitting there, if we ask for questions to be able to ask, and to be able to open ourselves open to the answers that are out there, which are abundant, then it makes us a more well-rounded answer.
Yeah, I think I take that emotions are not facts because I guess I think about it, and this kind of came up when I was doing the episode about the mind of the universe. Is the emotions of they're that part of that mind that's speaking. And if what we're looking for is answers to questions that are going to help us, listening to our emotions are not necessarily the most guaranteed place to get a good answer. So you have to be able to ask questions beyond your emotions, and it's hard to find the right questions. But I know I've experienced it many times in my life where all of a sudden it kind of hits me. It's like that. It's that V8 moment where it's like, it's so easy now. There's a way to think of a situation, that's asking a question. There's a certain perspective that opens up the eye to the universe and lets in the right answer. That perspective. Those are the questions that we're asking. Those are the way we're looking at the universe. Because that's what your perspective is doing. As I was talking about, science is this mechanism that's asking questions all the time. It's listening for answers all the time. In a way, you can think of that as asking questions. Because if you're listening for answers, you're asking questions. There's very close related things. So your perspective is that's kind of that shield too. That's sort of asking questions. It's like, what's over there? What's over there? What's over there? What's here? What's there? And it tries to focus your attention, and it's biased, it's distorted because you can't look at everything all at once. Because if you could just ask the whole universe at once, what is the answer to life, universe, and everything? You actually could get that answer because we know that's 42. Look it up. But beyond that, so Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy joke for those people who might. But we can only ask little questions, and we can only look at little parts of and just getting an answer itself is not useful to us if we haven't asked the right question. Because if we're asking the wrong questions, then really we're going to be listening to our emotions. And the answers are going to come from there. We want the answer to come from the universe. We want the answer to come from our higher power. So we have to ask sort of the right question, and that's the hard part, actually. I mean, I'm not making that sound easy, but and that's what I mean by we need to pray for questions, because the real guidance we need is what question? Because an answer or two is useless if you don't know what the question was that I went with. Like 42, great answer. What's the question that goes with 42? I don't even know. So what and I was teaching, that was a big thing with my students, and they didn't really understand what I was talking about when I would do this. But they would worry and focus so much on the answers to all the problems. I was like, stop worrying about the answers. The answers are whatever the answers are. It's like the universe doing its thing. The questions are doing what they're doing. Forget the answer. The answer doesn't matter. The answer matters and has its own importance, but the answer is outside of your locus of control in some sense. It exists beyond you. What you need to do is figure out how to get to the answer. And if you do that, then when you get there, the answer will be there for you. You don't need to ask for the answer. You don't need to pray for the answer. You don't need to worry about the answer. You just need to focus on getting there. And when you get there, the answer will be there waiting for you.
And I think that it's also asking the right question at the right time. Because it's like you ask, if you're asking the question that's all inclusive, sometimes you're going to get overwhelmed beyond belief. And so when you ask the right question is for that moment. What can I do for that moment? And that and that leads to a direction going towards the answer that's for the question that's going to be down the road. And I think that that is something that I've learned personally, a lot recently, because with my situation with my speaking career and everything like that, look, I did a whole different type of career for 20 years. I had no intentions of changing, but because of the way things are and because of the way that I believe that my purpose is now, that's now changed. Well, I could have said, okay, I'm going to be a speaker and that's it, and blah, 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 blah. But what I did is I said, okay, what do I do first? And I started writing, and I started writing, I thought it was going to be a book, but then I realized I wasn't ready for that question yet. I wasn't ready to write a book yet, but I was ready to be able to write a presentation that I would later on speak on. And then months later, yes, I started writing a book, but it took that naturalization, that progression that got it to that direction.
Yeah, some great points. I mean, it's wonderful to hear. I like because framing it that way. It's like a story I can understand and really, really feel. I mean, it's been an amazing story watching you anyway. But I do this with everybody though. I take my little weird, and it's only been recently that I've been able to kind of articulate the words that I'm, the way I want to, that I feel comfortable saying. But that's what perspective does now. Is I start looking through things through my lens. When I'm in awe of people, and so that's it's a little bit different than empathy. It's like for me to be like in awe of somebody, I look at what they're doing, and then I try to mirror what they're doing in my perspective to see, oh, wow, that is that's really speaks to me, it connects to me in that way, which is a different exercise than trying to put myself in somebody else's position, somebody stand up somebody else's shoes, or as I mentioned before, wear somebody else's glasses. To see the universe the way they see it is a different exercise. This is more along the lines of maybe it's a little bit more selfish, but it's like, wow, I can really, really, I'm really in awe of this person, and then I kind of in a way hope that they're in awe of their own actions, because what I see is really beautiful. It's really powerful. It's really this. The universe doing what it does, and then us taking some control in our lives, finding our own purpose, and moving in this positive direction that, especially if you've suffered with mental illness, depression, or bipolar, or just any of these, when things start going right for a little while, it's like a weight off your shoulders. Because some days it's just you cannot believe the drudgery of like just maybe getting out of bed, fixing something to eat, taking a shower, it's just overwhelming. The thought of all those things. I mean, for me, it got to the point where it was overwhelming to think about going outside. It was a real combination of anxiety and depression and stuff. It kept me locked in my apartment for a year and a half. I did not go outside until finally I just broke down, just escaped from my apartment in the middle of the night. But there was a long battle just from that moment. But without that moment, I was a lot more broken even after that than before that. But I was in a really dark place, and sometimes you get in a real dark place, and the only way out is to get worse. But it's worse in a different way. It's worse in a way that has a way out. Some of these dark, deep holes, especially for me, my thinking of the example I like to use a lot is, especially when I was getting into depression, is like the only thing I could think to do when I was think of depression as a whole, the only thing I could think to do was to dig faster. I'm digging myself into a hole of depression, and my thinking is so screwed up. The only thing I can think to do is to dig faster, and I end up putting myself in more and more and more and more in a hole. When the right thing to do is to stop. And it's to deal with the wreckage that you have so far, and that's could be part of recovery from addiction. Is when you first stop. Can be that first year after you've kind of stopped. You have to deal with the wreckage of your life that you were ignoring before. So a lot of times early recovery is harder than even the worst parts of the drinking. It's like, oh man, this is even worse than when I was drinking, and that draws you back into the drinking because then you don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to deal with it. But so sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. But that getting worse is getting you to a place where there's an escape. Where there's actually a path that leads somewhere. The other one, you were just in a place that was going nowhere. It's just, at least for me, that was my experience. And so things are going well with that. Still, I guess things I struggle with, but I wanted this thing with the question and the answer, and I was, there was a song actually that made me think about this many years ago. It was by Arrested Development. And it was from their album 3 Years, 5 Weeks, 2 Weeks, whatever. There's there's an album that has like years, months, days, and there's a song in there, Fishing for Religion. And the singer, the guy who's singing the song, is talking about some woman, and it's not exactly what my thought, but it kind of triggers my thought, where he's talking about a woman who's praying for the ability to cope with her situation. And he's saying, no, that's the wrong thing to pray for. You need to pray for change. Pray to get out of your situation. Pray for the courage to change your situation. Pray, pray for something a little bit more. You don't have to endure. Enduring your suffering, your pain. Your suffering is not a. If you believe in a loving, caring universe, then no loving, caring universe thinks that you ought to suffer. There's pain. Pain tells us something. Suffering is just needless pain. It's just pain for the sake of, for its own sake. And that's some suffering. And to get out of suffering, move it to pain where there's action. That's what you want. You want to say, how can I find meaning here? How can I cope? Not how can I cope with this? It's what can I do to change something? But anyway, that's that song. But it made me think about what people pray for. It may be a lot of praying. We're kind of praying for the wrong things. And again, that's our distorted thoughts. Just as humans, we have very distorted thoughts. We're very distorted about what we think our needs are and what we think about what's important to us. If we don't do the deep dive and do that analysis, a lot of times we just kind of have knee-jerk reactions. We have the emotions talking, and we respond to our emotions. And while the emotions are useful, sometimes we have to realize who's doing the talking. Maybe this is not my higher power talking to me. Maybe this is my emotion talking to me, and I have to tell the emotion, okay, hold on a second. I understand. I validate you. You're cool, but you're talking while I'm thinking over here, and then do the thinking a little bit, and then get to that. What can I change, or ask the right question. One of the right questions is what can I change? If you just ask that question, a lot of times it comes to you. If you're stuck in a situation, calm yourself down and think about your situation. Like, what is one thing I could change about my situation right now that would make it better? Most people can actually come up with something. Very small thing. Just come up with a very small thing. But a lot of times people will do that. And now you're on your way. Don't try and solve the whole problem. Don't try and solve everything. Like Shane was talking, you ask the questions, in the order that it makes sense. And sometimes that order is very hard to come up with. But when you start hitting that rhythm, and it's like, oh, boom, 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 and then before you know it, you're doing things that you never realized that you could do. You're making choices and decisions, and you're taking actions that a year earlier you would have never even. Well, you would never even thought to even consider doing those things, and now you're actually doing them, and they're things that, like, hey, that's what people who are on the ball do, not people like me. That's how'd that happen? When did I get on the ball? I don't know. So it's a little roller coaster thing. So that's what I meant with this episode. Don't pray for answers, pray for questions. It wasn't meant to be I don't know if you take it like if you're a religious person, you took it like as an insult. It certainly wasn't intended that way, but it's also advice I would say that even an atheist like myself could take, because when I'm praying for questions, I don't know what I'm thinking, what that means, but I'm not afraid to bandy about that word as an atheist, to say that what I need to do is sort of do things in an ordered fashion, and starting with good questions helps me get answers that that really feel good and resonate with me, make me happy and smile. So I'm gonna go ahead and close the episode there. I think we went about almost 40 minutes, maybe. It was 38. That's good thing. I want to mention give us a call on the feedback line. That's good in U.S. and Canada. It's open from 3 to 4 p.m. during the week, and then 3 to 5 on weekends, and then every night after the show, 11 to midnight. That's Eastern time. It's 15189-666-175, 15189-666-175. And to close the show, I want to play this great little song, or at least part of this song. This is from Derek Ashong, one of the guys who tweeted us out earlier today. And the name of the song, this is a song that I like to play when I'm feeling like really stressed or just overwhelmed by the day. And the name of the song is Close Your Eyes. And sometimes it's something that we need to do and just kind of take the universe for as it is. And is it playing?
It seems like nowadays I turn on my radio, turn on my television, and it looks like the world is going crazy around me. And it's funny because a lot of people, it feels like they don't know what to believe anymore. We don't know who to believe anymore. And so some among us will believe whoever is speaking loudly. So listen. As for me personally, I've never been one to quite go with the crowd, and I've always had this feeling that maybe we could kind of make the world that we would like to live in. But in order to do that, we need to really see where we need to go. I'm gonna say 1, 2, this is
up. And look him up, Derek Ashong. That's from his album Afropolitan. I don't want to get in trouble with the music people and playing too much of their song, but that's a song I play, and it calms me down and makes me I don't know, it just makes me feel really good. Powerful song for me, but the whole album's great. If you like, I don't know, that was just a little taste. I mean, this album's much different. Well, no, maybe it's the same. I don't know. I don't want you to tell you what to expect. It's music, You're gonna feel a different one. Okay, Courage. We are out of here tonight.
Have a good night, folks.